we met pretty close to when I first got there. I feel like it was maybe at Time Out New York or maybe The Voice. And you were working as a journalist and you were also running bingo games on the Lower East Side with Mary Hill.
Yes.
And later you created
Yes.
My Comrade, which I thought was so awesome. And you always still remain the coolest bingo bitch in town. And I even remember winning a polka dot shower cap there as a bingo prize once. So when I heard you were,
Wow, we went all out that night.
I know, right? That was a fancy one from the dollar store.
Ah,
I know you were out there. You lived this life out and proud on the town as you lay out in your lively presentation, February 17th at Green Room, Queer History, Drag in the Waterfront. Welcome, Linda.
thank you, Winnie, very much.
So tell us, Linda, why are queer communities often found at geographic peripheries at like the waterfront, as you pose in your presentation?
Well, I think historically, cities like San Francisco, New York, I guess LA to an extent, to port cities, have always kind of been kind of magnets for not just queer people, but for people that don't live conventional lifestyles. And I guess drag would be in that umbrella also. I I don't. I mean, there must be something in the water that
It's all the
attracts.
sailors. It's all the seamen.
Exactly.
What?
So, anyways, I guess, I mean, I'm not quite, there's probably gay historians that could tell you better than I, but that I do know that it is historical that like cities like New York, San Francisco were kind of epicenters for, gay people when other places weren't. So I think it probably does have, I don't know. I think that there's just kind of a more excitement with cities that border the ocean also.
And I feel like for our community in particular, sometimes the only safe spaces, or not even safe, but free spaces to gather were at these seaports. And like I said, I saw you out there for a couple decades, just like me, living it up. Can you share one of your personal memories of drag on the piers?
Oh, well, I guess my main memories of drag on the piers is Wigstock. Wigstock, as you know, Winnie, was an annual outdoor drag festival that was started, I think, way back in like '85. And then Lady Bunny was in charge of it. So she would MC, curate the acts, and, was the face of Wigstock. And it started out in the East Village. I went to like the
Yes, Tompkins Square Park. I actually got canned from a job for getting too wasted at Wigstock in the middle of my reporting duties.
Well, everyone was partying, so
Yes.
couldn't they understand? But yeah, was in the East Village for a while, and then it outgrew it really, and so it went over to the West Side Piers, and that's when Wigstock was at its biggest. I mean, there were thousands and thousands of people. They had a big jumbo screen that was broadcasting what was going on stage at the time, so that was quite exciting. And Wigstock went all the way to 2001. And then since then, or was it 2000? I think it was 2001, something like that, 2000 maybe. Anyways, then there have been revivals since then.
Oh, yeah. It's like this scrappy little festival that used to be in Tompkins Square Park kind of had an opportunity to grow and come into its own on the West Side. And really, I think helped bring drag more into the forefront and change the public perception of drag queens. I remember meeting RuPaul at that one of the wig stocks with Lady Bunny, and in behind the stage while we were all getting ready doing our thing, and she was just starting out then. I mean, she had the supermodel hit, but really this kind of helped push that out there and get this public perception from being an underground thing to really being just a mainstay of life in the city, in any city.
Definitely. And the fact that it was during the day too was pretty radical, really, because drag had really mostly been confined, to like 4 a.m. at a nightclub. But this was an opportunity for people to, proudly display their finery during the brightness of the day. And it was, very fun in that regard. But so a lot of people that maybe weren't, familiar with drag queens had an opportunity to kind of like enjoy the experience too. And then you're right about Rue. I mean, of course, like, really bringing it to the mainstream. She was the breakout star.
Absolutely, absolutely. And speaking of moving drag into the light of day, I think although some of these cruises are at night, a lot of them are day cruises too, tea dance cruises and stuff like
Mhm.
that, early drag theme cruises, or even the invasion of the pines, if you
Right.
will, continue to be this gathering point for the queer community, really bringing us all together. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, Wigstock, a couple years, the Wigstock reunion was actually on a boat cruise too. I don't know. I think it's just like those boat cruises are fun, I mean, there's a bar, I think there was food included with the Wigstock one. But, of course, there were performances and it was like a big, reunion. But I think that, I know that some of those boat cruises, the more naughty ones too, are allowed to do a lot more stuff that you can't within sort of like I don't remember what the geographic boundary is, but you
Oh,
get
the
so far,
international waters.
yes, you get so far out and you are not subject.
I have to hear one of those stories.
I know, right? You're not subject to local laws then. Anything goes. But I think it's basically, and also, I mean, again, it's like that thing with Wigstock. It's just like you don't really expect drag queens kind of like sometimes to get out of these confines of bars and clubs so to have them like on something like a boat cruise, is kind of like unique and nutty. I mean, it's more popular now. Drag queens are popping up everywhere, but certainly in the past, it has been just kind of like, a novelty location.
Oh yeah, we were firebrands back then. We were pushing
Exactly.
the envelope. So on your talk at the Green Room in
Mhm.
Manhattan on February 17th, you are going to be sharing some of these stories of your experiences down at the waterfront. Is that right? Can you tell folks a little bit about what they can see when they get their ticket?
Well, basically, I can't. I have kind of a standard show that I've been doing for a while. This presentation, so it's not really. I mean, I have to admit, not real waterfront or seaport oriented. But the fact that we are doing it, of course, on the seaport gives it that feel, and it's such a unique location over there. But basically, my drag slideshow, it's all photos that I took during the 80s and 90s. And I'm not a professional photographer, but I got a lot of good shots. And it just tells the history of that era, how drag uh, bubbled up in the East Village as this underground art form, then became very popular in the New York City nightlife. From there, it was kind of discovered by the media and then whole pop culture, got into the game. And like, it was a very like heady time because drag was very popular. And then I showed to talk about like how it all collapsed because of the Giuliani administration and because the media was very different then. The powers that be could just say something was a trend and then, in one day and out the next. And that was what happened to drag. So drag, by the mid 90s, 96, 97, drag was not nearly as popular as it had been for a really hot time, like to the early to mid 90s. I mean, drag really didn't start becoming popular again until RuPaul's Drag Race started taking
Hmm.
off, and that was
Right.
down the road.
Yeah, I think that maybe we're seeing a resurgence of the popularity of drag right now. And I wanted to ask if you I saw the term, I'm going to guess is the industry term, drag Herstorian.
Mhm.
In your role as a drag Herstorian, why is it so important for you to help preserve these memories of the New York City drag scene from the 80s and 90s?
Well, I think um, you know, drag history has always been a little muddled. I don't think that I even knew that much about, you know, what came before me sometimes. I mean, I've learned a little more as I've gone on. But I just feel like it really was a vital, groundbreaking era that I was lucky enough to participate in. And it really set things in motion for the huge drag renaissance that's going on today. I mean, what's going on today is bigger than um, what was happening back in the 90s, but we were doing it on a scale where we were on, you know, television talk shows and, you know, being asked to be in movies and, you know, fashion shows would feature drag queens and stuff. And that had never been done before, really, you know, so publicly. So it was a very like groundbreaking era. And, you know, I mean, I guess some of it's for selfish reasons. I want to be remembered as, you know, part of this avant-garde. But the drag explosion, my slideshow, shows that it was a group effort. You know, it was a community that managed to, you know, find itself in the spotlight and enjoy it while it lasted.
And you weren't just pushing, you know, boundaries and making art. You were art. You all were art and really the fabric of the city. So I'm so glad, Linda, that we got to talk today, and I'm so glad that you're keeping this history alive. I understand at the end there will be a complimentary toasts for all the guests. Is that correct?
There will be. And besides that complimentary toast, there will be copies of The Drag Explosion.
Yay! I love it.
This is my book that came out in 2021. It's got the same name as my slideshow. And it's 250 pages of beautiful photos, some which are in the slideshow and some are which are not. But
Well, that's great. That sounds perfect. One for you and one for gifting. I'll spread the word around town. And Linda, thank you so much. Go out and break all of the legs.
Thank you so much, Winnie. It's great to see you.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.